Ahdeya Al-Sayed, president of the Bahrain Journalists Association, and she speaks to us from Rifa in Bahrain. And Ahdeya, thank you for joining us on I-24 News. This is certainly an exciting day for Israel, for Israelis. What about for Bahrain? How are they reacting to this news?
Shalom. To start with, how we are reacting, I don't think we are less happier than the Israeli people are happy on this very special day. We are very happy. We are warmly welcoming these peace agreements, these memorandums of understanding. I never thought that I would live to see the day where Bahrain and Israel would establish political, diplomatic ties with each other. It's a dream come true. It's a new beginning for all the region, and I hope that we will live to see the fruits of these agreements being signed between our two friendly states.
And Ahdeya, what kind of impact do you think this would have? Not these pictures we're seeing, these rapid developments, not just on Bahrain or the UAE, but even elsewhere in the Gulf and even elsewhere in the wider Arab world, even in countries that Israel has made peace, this cold peace with?
I think that the Bahraini and UAE experience is going to be a different one. Israel has normalized with other countries in the Arab region, but this time I believe it's going to be on a public level too. And I personally believe that when peace can be established between people, then you have achieved your target. It is being, as I said, very warmly welcomed. During the past 4 weeks, my colleagues, journalists, have been writing about their aspirations. They do believe that the change is going to be better and to something that will serve the future generations and the youth of this region. We are very happy. We are excited. Finally, we get to become friends with a country that has lived a lot in isolation, and it's about time that we establish and officially become friends. This is a very major move for the region in general. This region has been going through a lot of conflicts, and the world is changing. You cannot be fighting and not negotiating. The doors are now open. The issues that we have in common are on the table. Let's not forget that there are many things that Bahrain and Israel share in common. We are both small in size, yet huge when it comes to culture, civilization, progress, and development in different ways. So imagine when these two countries come together, can you just imagine what the result will be? The people of the country are educated people, are cultured people. Imagine when the people come together. And I know many might think that I'm being very optimistic, but I know for sure that the moment the flights start operating between Bahrain and Tel Aviv, you will see many Bahrainis in Tel Aviv, and we would be happy to see many of our Israeli friends in Bahrain.
Right. Well, let's talk about, unfortunately, one negative reaction from one sector, and that is from Palestinians or the Palestinian leadership, which have rejected these accords. They've criticized the UAE and Bahrain. They've boycotted them. You personally, as president of the Bahrain Journalists Association, I know, have had some unpleasant experience of that. What is your message to the Palestinians and your Palestinian colleagues, journalistic colleagues?
Well, I was disappointed with many of my journalistic colleagues from the Palestinian side because I don't expect that journalists who fight for the freedom of expression, the moment I freely express my opinion about a certain issue, I would be harassed and bullied. I was very disappointed with this action and behavior. Yet, I do believe that we have a bigger mission to accomplish. So I will put aside these negative messages and the harassment that I've been getting from my Palestinian colleagues, and I will look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, let's face it, the current Palestinian leaders have never been serious about resolving any issue with Israel in the region. On the contrary, you see that their movements have been contradicting what peace is all about. Hamas is officially a terrorist organization, so Hamas isn't an entity that you can have negotiations with. So that's left out, and then you are left with others who have been other leaders like that who have been looking at this case as something that they would make money from. It has been a war trade, and we all know that. But And we also know that there is no step in the right direction but to change the leaders on the Palestinian side. If we don't see change in the leaders, then we can't assure that the Palestinian people will have their rights protected. These leaders need to go, and with them leaving, it doesn't mean that they get replaced by people from the same ideologies. You're not doing anything. They need to go. New faces have to come into the scene. By doing that, we are going to be assured that both Palestinians and Israelis will live in peace. Let's be fair to Israel itself. Israel has been also through a lot of threats and attacks, and this has also been unacceptable, especially when rockets land up in Israel from terrorist entities. We want that to come to an end. We want Hezbollah and these terrorist entities to come to an end. And I'm happy about the agreement, because as much as we're excited about having peace with Israel, let's not forget that we have a common enemy too. So if a peace agreement with another country means that I would also be capable of facing my enemy, then I would very, very warmly welcome this agreement.
Well, Ahdeya, let me, for those of you who don't know, I presume you're also referring to Iran. It is striking, these agreements being signed on the day that the UN arms embargo on Iran is expiring. So how much do you see that as an element, as you said, as an alliance, not just beneficial for Bahrain and Israel, but for maybe all the countries in the Gulf?
Iran is a threat to all the countries in the Gulf. Iran has attempted to interfere and topple the regimes of many countries. Iran had a direct hand in what Bahrain went through in 2011. Iran funds Hezbollah. So all the instability in Lebanon is because of Hezbollah. So Iran has been the devil in this region, and we will be very clear about this. For 41 years, this player has played, has threatened, has displayed weak muscles, because if they truly had muscles, they wouldn't have been just talking and incapable of taking any action. And I believe that this agreement, these accords being signed, is a slap on the face of the Ayatollah regime in Iran. 41 years of tyranny, 41 years of attempting to export the Shia sect. With all my respect to our friends from representing the Shia sect, this Ayatollah regime has never represented this sect in particular. This is a political regime. So if they want to use an excuse under the umbrella of Islam, this is not acceptable. They have 44 decades been a threat to us, and this is no longer an issue.
All right. Ahdeya Al-Sayed, president of the Bahrain Journalists Association. As I say to our guests from the Gulf, I look forward to hosting you in our studio here at I-24 News in Tel Aviv.
Congratulations, and I'm very proud and happy that my colleagues in Israel share the same feelings that I share here, and I know that together we will bring peace and we'll have a very positive impact on public opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.